All right, so we're on the day one of the MLF Pro Circuit on the Harris chain. And this was a day I was a little, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. We had 30-degree weather in the morning. It had been in the 80s all week. Mornings were in the 60s. It was beautiful out. And I found a little bit of a shad spawn. The bait wasn't rolling on itself or anything like that, but there was enough of it flicking up shallow, and I got enough bites up shallow just from 2.5 pounders that I thought I could make it work. So what I did was I ran to an area that had a bunch of fish in practice that I could actually see them blowing up and all that. And I caught a 2.5 pounder on that spinner bait we were talking about in practice with that Hayabusa trailer hook on there. It's a cool little system they got with these beads here that really make sure you don't miss any of those short strikers. But I pulled up to that first area and I could see them popping on the surface. They weren't giants, but they were around, and it just wasn't really happening. So I went to my second spot, and again, I was throwing that spinner bait, and then I picked up my Bill Lewis. This is the SB57. This is a chartreuse shad. It's a good little bait to mimic anything that's up shallow and bait fish oriented. So as I was working that bait there, bringing it across some like cypress areas and all that, I caught a couple in the morning. I caught a 4-pounder that you're going to see, I believe, as I edit the video, on this spinner bait. Kind of kept working my way along, mixed in a jackhammer a little bit. Didn't really play as much on day one as it will on day 3 and 4, but you'll see that coming up. So after I got the one that was almost 4 pounds on first thing in the morning, it was probably 18 inches of water. The water temp went from like 75 to 68, so it did drop quite a bit, but the shad were still up there shallow, and that was good news because like it gave me that shot of catching some shallow guys. And I went to my second spot, didn't really have a whole lot going on, but I went back into a canal system then. And what I was doing back there was taking, I don't have it out, but it's one of these Z-Man Zinkerz, and I was wacky rigging it, and I would throw that around in the canal, and it would just kind of skip around. I was catching little fry garters. I caught a 2.5 pounder, which I ended up weighing in the first day, but I also caught 2 more to get me up to 4 fish for the first part of the morning. From there, I went and idled through one of the canal systems. I went and flipped the rest of the day. And that's where I put this Mark Daniels Jr. hex to work. Basically, what I was doing was just flipping into different holes. It could be areas I thought they were spawning. I couldn't see any of these fish. The water was too dirty. But they would pick it up, start swimming off with it. You'd hook them. And I ended up catching my 5th one. It was a small guy. And I went through an area that had some like arrowheads because it was colder still. It was a really dense patch, and I flipped in there and I caught another 4-pounder. So at this point I had 2 that they were almost 4s each. So I probably had just under 8 pounds with those 2 fish. And I kind of just kept going to work, and I kept flipping all day. And eventually I was able to upgrade to the point where I had almost 14 pounds. I think I had 13, 14 was my final weight. And I was feeling really good going to the weigh-in. I was weighing them on my scale at that point, making sure I was getting rid of the smallest one. And typically in Florida, you have 12.5 pounds a day for 2 days in a row. You're getting the top 50. You're getting paid. You're going to get out of there with some money. It's a good week. So 14, I was feeling awesome. As I go into that weigh-in though, it was pretty apparent that the boys had smashed them like they always do. And I ended up sitting in 52nd with almost 14 pounds after day 1, which wasn't anywhere near what I expected, but it kind of is what it is. I'm going to show you some fish catches here. I'll also quickly go over the rod and reel setups here if you don't know. This is the favorite rod. It's a hex. It's the MDJ series, which is 7'8". It's a heavy action. It's a great flipping rod. It works really well. With that, I pair it with a Soleus XCS reel. This is at 8:1:1, so it's a fast gear ratio, and I like that because I can make just so many more flips throughout a day. You don't think about it hits the water. I was letting it hit the bottom, shaking it twice, and then reel back up. And when that happened, you either got a bite or you didn't. So it let me cover a lot of water. Then I went with this Angler Tungsten weight, which we'll pull off here for a second. If you can see here, they punched the number 8 on there. So it's painted in there. You can't ever forget what size you have, which I think is really important. It just makes your life that much easier, especially when you're switching weights. Say you're throwing them on the bottom of your boat before you clean them up at the next time when you get home from a tournament or whatever. Then I can just put them right back in their spots. I'm not guessing, is this a half or is this a 5/8, is this a 3/4, any of that. It makes it super simple. It's really high quality tungsten. You don't have to worry about it cutting your line or anything like that. So that's good. And then this hook here is a FPP straight Hayabusa. It's a flipping hook. I was snelling my knot so you can see when hang on one sec. When I set the hook, it's going and it goes click and it kicks right out. See how that kicks out? That makes sure you hook those fish right in the roof of the mouth. You're not going to miss nearly as many. So if you just had a regular knot on there, a lot of times it's pulling it straight and you still catch them good, but this I think just puts a couple extra bites in the boat. You can also see this Hayabusa has that little monofilament keeper. So when I would slide my Z-Man Zinkerz up there, it holds it right on there. And that last deck, it sets really well with that. You don't have to worry about having to switch your bait 100 times throughout the day. And I was just Texas rigging this, nice and simple, just like that. Slide my bobber stop down there, give it a little bit of room. And there you go. That's Z-Man Zinkerz Z. That's black blue. Really good bait. Awesome color for Florida. You catch a lot of fish on it because of that. And that's basically my setup for throwing that Mark Daniels Jr. rod with when I'm flipping. The rod that I was using when I was throwing the spinnerbait with that Hayabusa trailer hook, that is the favorite. It's a General, which is Zach Burge's rod line. It's a 7'3". It's a super versatile rod. You kind of use this for everything. It's really cool. I like spinner baits with it. I'll throw swim baits on it. You can drag a little worm with it. It works really well for that too. And it's orange and black, so big fan of that color scheme he's got going on there. Just another Soleus XCS reel. This is a 7.3-to-1, so it's a little bit slower, but it still gets the job done for what I'm looking for. I can keep that bait burning real quick, or I can slow down. I can kind of control what I want to do with the reel. It's good all around. If you're picking just one reel to have, that's the 7.3-to-1's the one to get. Just throwing that on. Let's see what I was throwing that on. It was 17-pound Seaguar InvisX. This is cool. They have this little dial on here, so you can set that to wherever line you have. It could be 10, 20, 12, 30, 14. And they have a braid and fluorocarbon marker on there. So that way you know exactly what line you have on there every time you pick up a rod and reel. What else do I got for you? This is a all available on favoriteusa.com. If you want to get 20% off this rod, reel, anything from Favorite, use the code GB20 and it'll save you 20% just like that. So that's pretty cool too. We're going to talk about day 2 next. That'll be the next video. If you haven't seen it already, go back. You can watch the practice. Kind of gives you a game plan of how it was all coming together and what I was planning on doing. And in the next ones, we'll talk about the Bill Lewis SB57, the Z-Man Jackhammer, how they played a bigger role as the tournament kept rolling along to my 7th place finish. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
All right. 129, thanks, sir. About 130.
Happy to see him. What's a fat one? Maybe actually, you can stay right where you're at. Nice go. Looks like it, doesn't it?
Is this nice?
Nice and great Landis block.
Is that your manufacturer?
It is. It's a local company that my first year I was just trying to collect like a couple like $1,000 here, $1,000 to try to cover some stuff. I said,
I haven't seen it make much difference.
no, there's been very few times I've seen it make a big difference. Honestly, I forget to turn it off more often than not.
I fish with a group of guys at home, and we fish at night.
Oh, really?
I thought that's gonna really be the tip of the night. If you were up season anyway.
Oh, he's a 12-incher, right? Oh yeah, giant. He's not allowed to be weighed in.
Just to hold him for a while.
Yeah. That's what we need to do. Give us a little confidence in what we're doing.
Yep. Just keep throwing it out there.
I know. That's why we came over here, though. We want a couple of them. We got 2 little ones.
That's a heck of a call right there. That is a call. 3 pounds.
Yeah. I think that was the one I caught while you were busy. Oh, man, that feels good. 3-pounder. It should have weighed like 5. I even caught one first I got down here to like mess around for practice.
Get in here.
We went over to that Lake Panasaki. You're okay. You can sit down there. You're fine. Have you ever heard of that one?
What was it?
Panasaki?
Yeah, it's flooded. It's nothing. There's no depth to it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of eelgrass. It's super
Yeah.
clear. And went over there and I caught one that was almost 6 pounds, but it just so spawned out.
I have been a non-smartphone person until this tournament came along. Oh. Did it help you?
I think so. Why is bleeding?
So I bought one and tried to get it set up. Didn't get it set up in time, so I had to borrow my wife's. in here, buddy.
You're good. $170. It's like 150, 170. It's thin.